Hello everyone and welcome to episode 1 of Let's Talk Books. I thought I'd start with an introduction. Seeing as this is a completely new type of video on my channel, it seemed sensible to start with a big introduction of kind of who I am, basically. I am Helen. Welcome to my channel. I have been on YouTube for probably about 7 years, but my focus, as you may gather from the videos on my channel, and obviously if you're a regular viewer who's just coming over for this new type of video, my focus has very much been on crafting content. I do a regular podcast where I talk about what projects I've been working on. I also do the odd vlog and stuff based primarily around my business and things like that. I am an indie yarn dyer. I dye hand-dyed yarn inspired by literature for crafters. That's what all of this is. I am currently recording from my studio where I work. So yeah, no bookshelves in the background, I'm afraid, but you've got yarn and some pictures instead. So yeah, I've been on YouTube a while, but I thought I would add a new type of video to my channel and we would talk books. I have always been an avid reader, and that's kind of inspired my business as well, in that a lot of my yarn that I dye for my business is inspired by literature and things like that. And I just want to talk books more. So I thought I would start a new type of channel, a new type of video for my channel. So we are going with Let's Talk Books. This is episode 1. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I hope you enjoy it. If you are a regular viewer who watches all my crafting content and has come over to listen to the book chat, thank you very, very much. I hope you enjoy it. And if you are new and have come to me via BookTube and the book world, then yeah, I hope you enjoy it too. Let me know down in the comments whether you are new to my channel or whether you are an existing viewer. But we're trying something a little bit different. So I thought what I would do going forward is that I will do a monthly video, which will be a combination of the previous month wrap up and this current month's TBR, basically. But we're going to start this one with a little bit of an introduction. I'm obviously going to, well, I've kind of told you who I am. I haven't said where I'm based. We'll do a proper introduction in a minute. I thought I'd touch on the kind of the genres. That's not the right word, is it? The kind of genres that I like to read, how I read, some of my favourite books of the year so far, to give you a bit of an idea before we get into kind of the wrap up and TBR kind of stuff as to whether our reading preferences align. Let's go with that. So, introductions. As I said, I am Helen. I am based in Dundee, Scotland. I know I don't sound it. I was born down in England and I grew up most of my life. I grew up down in Cornwall. But we have been in Scotland now for 6 years. Yeah, six coming on 7 years, something like that. And it very much feels like home. And yeah, as I said, I am an indie yarn dyer. That is my full-time job. I have been very fortunate and worked very hard in that I've been able to grow my business. I started out back in 2017. Yes, 2017. I started out back in July 2017 and I have now managed to grow my business to the point where it is my full-time job. And it's a busy one at that. But yeah. What else can I tell you about me? I have 2 boys who feature on some of the vlogs, the other vlogs on my channel. I have been putting monthly vlogs on this channel, which are kind of a crossover of family life, crafty content, and the occasional book chat as well. And yeah, that's kind of me, I guess. What am I going to say? How do I read? Right, first off, I'm going to start with a little disclaimer and say, when I'm holding up books and things like that, you will notice that my fingernails are always disgusting. I work with dyes for a living. I constantly have stained fingernails from dye. It's not actually too bad today because my actual hands aren't stained for a change. It is just the dye that is under my fingernails. It is just a constant staining, basically. So if you do see it and think, oh, she's got really dirty fingernails, that's what it is. I promise my hands are clean. I'm just constantly stained. And I ramble. That's another disclaimer. I ramble a lot. So these will not be short videos because I am sure I will go off on tangents and I will ramble and things like that. But if you are one like me who likes a longer video, who will make yourself a cup of tea, snuggle up on the sofa and yeah, listen to me chat about books, then I hope you enjoy. Right, let's talk actually about books. So let's talk genres. I tend to read quite a wide range of genres. I went through, I'm going to pick my little notebook up. I went through my stats so far for this year, and I picked out the kind of top 3 genres that I tend to read. So far this year I have read 55 books in total. 19 of those have been fantasy, 9 of those have been thrillers, and 8 of those have been romance books. I also read a bit of historical fiction, and occasionally other bits and pieces as well. But primarily, I would say they're the main genres that I tend to lean towards. I also read in quite a lot of different ways. So as I said, I have read 55 books so far this year. 25 of those I have listened to as audiobooks. I 100% count audiobooks as reading. I'm a strong believer that to say that audiobooks don't count as reading is really ableist. And actually, you know, for people who are dyslexic, for people who have visual impairments and lots of other possible things, audiobooks are a great way that they can read. So why should we claim that it isn't reading in any way? So I am a big, I can't think of the word I want, a big advocate of audiobooks as being a form of reading. So just under half of the books I've read this year have been audiobooks. I'll often have an audiobook running while I'm working, when I'm prepping yarn, and things like that. I work alone in a studio on my own. So yeah, I like the company of an audiobook. I have, of those 55, 18 of them have been Kindle books. Up until, I'd say maybe the mid part of this year, well, up until I moved into this studio. I moved into this studio in April. Before that, I was working from home. And the fact that we moved into the studio meant that we had a spare room in the house, and we now have bookshelves in that spare room, which means I have been able to start buying more physical books. But before that, I was very much 100% a Kindle reader, and that was primarily because of space. I didn't have space in our house to store physical books. We didn't have space for big bookshelves or anything like that. So Kindle was very much a space saver for me. But since I have moved into the studio, we now have 2 nice big bookcases in the new room, which we are calling the library. It does not have enough books to be officially a library, but it is our new room and we are calling it the library. That sounds really posh. It isn't. We live in like a 3-bed standard kind of house. We don't live in anything fancy. We just happen to now have a second room because we had our garage converted, and yeah, we're just calling it the library. I'm sure at some point I may do a video in the library and you'll see that it is not it's not particularly fancy. Anyway, so yeah, of those 55 books, 18 were Kindle books and 12 were physical books. I would say that as this year has progressed, I have moved slightly more away from reading on my Kindle to reading physical books. But yeah, in terms of physical books, I have a wide range of where I get my books from. I read a real mix of, I pick up books from the library occasionally. I am a big lover of charity shop books. I love a secondhand book. I will pick books up from the charity shop, or I will often order, if I'm looking for specific books, I will often order from World of Books and things like that. love a secondhand book. Their books should never go to waste. But I also have a few books that I have bought new, and I also have a few special editions that I have treated myself to as well. So yeah, a bit of a range. I am not 100% a special edition person, but at the same time, I do have a few, but I also have lots of charity shop books. So a real mix, I'd say, of kind of where my books come from. Yeah, that's that. Where did we get to in that case? Well, I think that kind of sums up how I read, I guess, and things like that, and the type of genres and things that I tend to read. So let's move on to my favourite books so far of 2024. And I have picked out, I'm going to pick my little notebook up again so that I can keep in track with this. I've picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to talk about, although a couple of them are not individual books. And these are in no particular order at all, but these are some of my favourite books that I've read so far this year. The first one is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. This is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, which is a cosy fantasy, and we follow Viv, who is an orc barbarian in Bookshops and Bone Dust, we follow her in the early part of her career when she has been injured and is sent to a seaside town to recuperate, and it's very much kind of found family, cozy fantasy, and absolutely love both of them. And I can't wait to see what Travis Baldree comes up with next. The second one I've gone for is a trilogy, and that is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. I have come to the realm of the Elderlings this year. I am joining in with a read-along hosted by Lianne of Literary Diversions, who is also here on YouTube. And we are reading across, I'm trying to remember, I have the thing in the front of my book. From now until the middle of 2026, so from the beginning of 2024 up until the middle of 2026, we are reading the entire Realm of the Elderlings series. And I read the first the first half of this year, I guess. I read the first 3 books, which are the Farseer trilogy, where we follow Fitz, who we follow from being really, really young up until he's kind of a young adult, I guess. And it's very much kind of fantasy. Robin Hobb's books are very character driven, so you really kind of get to know the characters, and they are just brilliant. I can't even really describe it too much, but her world building is brilliant, and I am so glad I have come to them. And as you will see shortly, I am continuing in the Realm of the Elderling series as well. The other series that I've added on here is the D.I. Kalanak series from Helen Fields. I can't remember where this starts with, but it's like Perfect Silence. They're all like that. They're all kind of Perfect Silence, Perfect Crime, Perfect Death, like all of this kind of thing. It's very much a crime series until the final one, which is called One for Sorrow. I read the entire 7-book series. I don't think I've read them all this year. I think I started them last year. I listened to the first 6 on audiobook, and I will say the audio narrator for this series is fantastic, and it is the best audiobooks I have ever listened to. So if you're a fan of audiobooks and you like a good kind of crime, this is quite a I can't think of the word I want. Quite a gory, we'll go with, crime kind of series. It's set in Edinburgh. We follow D.I. Kalanak, Luke Kalanak, and Eva. I've forgotten her surname. But he is a French detective who, due to circumstances that you learn about through the books, has now ended up in Edinburgh working for the major incident team in Edinburgh who investigates serial killers. And each book is a different serial killer as well as kind of something else coming along. And one of the things I love is you often get perspectives from the killer. You often get chapters from the killer's perspective as well. So you kind of learn stuff a little bit more than the detectives in the book are learning. And yeah, the series was brilliant. It is quite dark and gritty and gory in places, but brilliant. Absolutely loved it. The next book is The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. This is a kind of gothic horror. We follow Elsbeth, who is quite young, but she's gone off to a remote Scottish island to become a nanny to a little girl called Mary, whose brother died in difficult circumstances, and not all is quite as it seems at the house. It's very much kind of a haunted house kind of thing. I read it while we were on holiday on the Isle of Mull, and it was perfect because, like, set on a remote Scottish island while you're sitting on the Isle of Mull, brilliant. And I can't wait to get to more Rebecca Netley books. The next one I was going to mention is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I loved this book, absolutely loved it. We follow Elizabeth, who is a scientist in the 1960s, a time where being a scientist as a woman is not particularly easy. And we kind of follow her life and what happens, and she ends up becoming a TV personality running a cooking show. But she does her cooking show inspired by chemistry, and she inspires the women of the world that they can be more than just housewives and things like that. And it is brilliant. Absolutely. I loved this book so, so much. The next book is The Women by Kristen Hanna. Again, one of my top books of the year. Absolutely loved it. I had read previously The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and that was brilliant as well. I read that a couple of years ago, I think. And then I saw this one, and having read The Nightingale and loved it so much, I thought I'd pick this one up. The Women follows Frankie, who signs up to be an army nurse during Vietnam. So we're following kind of the 1960s. The first half of the book is very much her out in Vietnam, and the second half of the book is her returning home and coping with that. And this was incredible. It had me in tears in multiple parts. And I learned so much about Vietnam, and, you know, there was a real kind of sense that there were no women in Vietnam. And there really were, and this kind of gave you a real kind of insight into kind of what people went through and with Vietnam. And I don't know a lot about Vietnam. I wasn't born in the 60s. It was very much an American kind of war that I don't even know how it really affected the UK. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I don't know the history of it that well. But it was a brilliant book, and yeah, I would highly recommend it. It is quite harrowing. So yeah, be prepared for that. And then the final book I read was In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. And this is a queer romance set in World War One. We follow Gawn and Elwood, who start the book as English schoolboys, private schoolboys, and they end up going to war far too young. And it follows kind of their romance, although it's billed as a queer romance, but I would say the romance is not a big part of it. Like the rest, everything that happens at the war, and it's very much like trench warfare, their experiences, following all the other schoolboys that have gone, and yeah, it is, I don't even know, it is heartbreaking in places, but at the same time, like, it's brilliant. There's a lot of little moments of queer joy in it that are brilliant, and it is, it's brilliant. It is harrowing again. It is difficult to read in places. There is a lot of death, a lot of very violent death, but it was World War One in the trenches, and I feel like it really gets that across. So yeah, those were my favourite books of 2024, which gives you a bit of an idea, I hope, as to kind of the types of books I read, the types of books that tend to be my favourites, and things like that. That was kind of the hope, was that it would give you a bit of an insight into my reading, and yeah, again, whether our tastes may align. So I'm going to move on, I think, to an August wrap-up, because I think the main format that these videos will take going forward is that I will start them with a wrap-up of the previous month. So we are recording this at the beginning of September, so it makes sense to do an August wrap-up, and then once we've done that, we will move on to my September TBR and what I'm planning to read in September. So, August wrap up, I'm going to grab, I have a little book journal that I keep, where I just keep so I have one page which is like my kind of TBR plans, and then my other page is what I've read, and I put my little star rating in and stuff like that. I love stationery, I love stickers, so why not? So I shall grab that because it's got my stats in it. So in August, I read a total of 8 books, which is pretty average for me, I would say. In fact, let's get a bit of a feel, shall we? Let's look back. So January, I read 5 books. February, I read 6 books. March, I read 5 books. April, I read 6 books. I feel like it's been growing throughout the year. May, I read 10 books. June, I read 9. July, I read 7. And August, I've read 8. So yeah, I feel like 8 is kind of average for me, something like that. So yeah, I read 8 books. A total, I track the number of pages that I've read as well, because I don't know why, but I like to work out like the average number of pages per book, if that makes sense. I don't even know why I like that. It's just a stat I like. So I read a total of 3,171 pages in August, which made it about 396 pages average per book. I read one very, very long book, but I also read 2 very, very short books. So yeah, it kind of all balances out. So let's see. Oh, star rating. Let's talk about my star ratings. So I tend to rate books out of 5 up to 5 stars. If it's below a 3, I probably would have DNF'd it, so I don't tend to do below a 3-star. But for me, a 3-star rating is I have enjoyed the book, I would recommend it to somebody else, but I probably won't read it again, and it was all right. I enjoyed it. That's kind of what my 3-star rating means. 5-star is very much like The Women was 5-star, In Memoriam was 5-star, like books that have had an effect on me. Yeah, books I could not put down, books that have given me an emotional response, books I absolutely adored. So yeah, that's kind of my rating system, if that makes sense. I am a big fan of a DNF, so a do not finish if you are new to the book world. So very much if I am not enjoying a book and I can't see myself kind of, if it's stopping me from picking up books, if I'm not reading as much because I'm not enjoying it, then I very much will be a case of, yeah, okay, I'm not going to finish that, so I will DNF it, which is why things tend not to get rated much below 3 stars, because, yeah, I don't tend to finish them. Although there was one book earlier this year, House of 100, hang on, was it January or February? It was right at the beginning of the year. House of 100 Whispers by Graham Masterson, that got a 2-star rating from me because I did finish it. I enjoyed the story, but he is not a writer for me. It was there was a lot of misogynistic. I didn't like the way he wrote women. There were a few scenes which I felt were very unnecessary. There were a few descriptions of women that I felt were very unnecessary. But I did finish it because I was reading it for a book club, and yeah, so sometimes things get rated low. Right, so should we actually talk about the books and what I'm rating? I have got a stack of books next to me. I actually only have one physical book from August, but that's fine. I will pop pictures. I may have already done that when I was talking about my favourite books, because I didn't actually bring those with me. I did have most of those as physical books, but for some reason I didn't bring them with me to the studio, so I couldn't show you them physically. But hopefully I will have popped pictures on the screen anyway, and I will do that. If I don't have a physical book with me, I will, again, just pop a picture on the screen to kind of show you them, so you can see, because I like that. I like to see what the cover is, because then if I'm looking that book up, I find it much easier if I already know what the cover looks like. So the first book I finished in August is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book in a trilogy. It is YA kind of fantasy romance, I guess. And we follow Payden and Kai. The first book, Powerless, very much feels like Hunger Games with magic. This one kind of developed a little bit more from there. We had Payden on the run and Kai trying to kind of catch up with her. I enjoy these books. Like, I am hooked on the story. I want to know what happens. I want to read more because I want to know what happens to the characters, but they are a little bit YA for me. I don't read a lot of YA because I just find myself getting annoyed with the characters mostly. But yeah, it's a little bit YA. I listened to these ones on audiobook. And I'm glad I did, because I often find that with things like YA fantasy and stuff like that, I find it easier to listen to on audiobook while I'm working and doing other things. I think I get less annoyed with them. I rated it 3 stars because, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I want to carry on reading more, and yeah, it was all right. The second book I finished was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Again, this is fantasy romance, I think. I'm not that great with genres, I will say. I rated this one 4-star. I did really enjoy it. I loved the setting and the idea of Caraval. I read this one as a Kindle book. I found the characters, I don't know, that we follow Scarlett, who has been obsessed with Caraval, which is like this magical game, for years and years, and she has the opportunity to take part in the game. But she's a very kind of stick to the rules. She has an abusive father, and her and her sister end up in this game. And yeah, I enjoyed the game element. I very much enjoyed the game element. I kind of wish there'd been more of that. I kind of wish there'd been more of that. But I did really enjoy it, and I definitely kind of want to see where it goes. I picked this one up on a whim because one of the book clubs that I was kind of following along with on Fable, I can't remember the name of the book club. If you've not come across Fable, Fable is a brilliant app for readers, and there are lots of people who have kind of book clubs and stuff on Fable, and I have a few that I follow along with, and sometimes I'll join in with the book, sometimes I won't. I kind of dip in and out. But one of the book clubs was going to be reading Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and I was going to pick it up. In fact, I have it at home. I got it from the library. But then I read somewhere that the Caraval trilogy is set in the same world and came first. So I was like, right, okay, I should read that trilogy first. And then I've read Caraval, and I haven't read the others, and I still haven't come to Once Upon a Broken Heart. So yeah. But I very much enjoyed it. I want to see where it goes. I get the feeling that each book is slightly different characters, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. The next book is Legendary, I believe, and then we finish off with Finale. So yeah, I'm going to read the next one. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. And I want to get to Once Upon a Broken Heart. The next book was an audiobook that I listened to, and that was The Inmate by Frida McFadden. We follow Brooke, who is a nurse, and she goes to work at a prison, and it kind of follows what happens there. Yeah, I'm getting myself muddled up with another one I've read. I'm getting myself muddled up with Ward D, I think. But no, I read The Inmate. She goes to work at a prison. She has history with one of the prisoners. And yeah, it's very much a Frida McFadden thriller. Again, I gave it 3 stars. I quite enjoy Frida McFadden thrillers, but I never like her characters. Her characters wind me up. And this one was no different. The decisions they make, the things they do, I just want to shake them. And also like, she has brilliant twists, but they're always so far-fetched. And but they're fun. And I think that's an important thing. Like, a book doesn't have to be like top of the pile literature, like, to enjoy it. It was fun. I listened to it on audiobook. It was great for while I was working. It kept me interested, and yeah, it was all right. And then we've got 2 books by Seanan McGuire that I read to. I have been listening to, well, I listened again to both of these on audiobook. I have been listening to the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. I started it earlier this year. And in August, I listened to Across the Greengrass Fields. I'm checking the name of that. Yeah, Across the Greengrass Fields, which follows Reagan, who... so the Wayward Children series, if you've not come across it, is very much portal fantasy. So it's very much about how children can be whisked away from their home to another world which they are more suited for. But then sometimes, due to their age, due to something they've done, something that's happened, they get sent back. And then it's like they never feel at home. And the series is brilliant. I would highly recommend it. It's really good. All of the books are very short, all kind of under 200 pages. And you have a real mix, because like the first one is set at, we have a school for wayward children where all these children can go and help come to terms with the fact that they're waiting to get back to their world, basically waiting for their doors to come to get back to their world. And they've all come from very different worlds. There are dark worlds, there are worlds of candy, it's a real range. And And but each of the books are different. So some of them are set at the school, some of them aren't. Some of them you follow like one of the teacher's stories, a random person's story. Like it very much is different, but they all kind of fit in the world. So Across the Green Grass is a new character who we've not come across before. We follow Reagan, who she goes to a world of horses. She loves horses, and the world she goes to is she joins a group of centaurs and becomes part of their group. There are unicorns, there are all kinds of kind of horse creatures in this world, and we follow her world. I gave that one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I love these books. I love the way that Seanan McGuire tells the stories. I love the way that all the stories are kind of intertwined, but sometimes they're standalone, but then you kind of come to realise later on how they've tied in. I then listened to Where the Drowned Girls Go, which is the next book in the series, and this one follows Cora, who we've met before. So we've met Cora in previous books. Cora was a drowned girl. She was a mermaid, and it follows her kind of struggling with, so I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but she's struggling with something, and she decides to go to a different school. There is another school, which is like the opposite of the School for Wayward Children. It's very much, that one is very much like helping people find their doors. This one is helping people forget their doors ever existed. So she goes off to that one, and we meet Reagan there. So that's how Reagan's story then ties in. And yeah, I loved this one. I really enjoyed the different school setting. It's brilliant. I really like Cora's story in general. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was really, really good. And I'm so excited to go on and listen to more of them. Yeah, absolutely love them. One of the things I really, really love about this series is how diverse and inclusive it is. There is a lot of kind of, they touch on a lot of different things. Cora in particular, there is a lot of talk around kind of fat phobia, and she is a larger girl, and it is, yeah, I really like that they've kind of picked a lot of kind of bits like that. Seanan McGuire has done that really, really well in this series. We've got a character quite early on who is asexual. We've got a character who is trans. There are lots of different identities and things like that within the series, and it's all done in a really, really, really good way, I think, anyway. So that is that one. Then I finally finished, and this was a mammoth task, and it took over. This is why I have listened to so many audiobooks, and there's not a lot of other books in August, because the main physical book I was reading was Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, and this is a beast. This comes in at 880 pages. Yeah, this took over my August reading, very much so. But I did love it. It took me a little while to get into, because it's different from the Farseer trilogy. So you're different characters. Although we're set in the same world, we are following a different cast of characters. And it's quite a big cast of characters, and they're not all particularly likeable. It took me a bit of a while to get into, but once I got in, it was brilliant. Like, I can't wait to pick up the next book. And yeah, it's really, really, really good. You're following a number of characters, as I said. So there is Althea, who is her father was the captain of a live ship, and live ships are these ships made of wizard wood that once 3 generations of the same family have died on board them, they literally come to life, and the ship can talk and it can control itself and everything like that. But the ship needs to have a member of the family on board kind of most of the time to support them. And Althea is our kind of, she has been on board the live ship for most of her life, travelling around, but things don't go quite to plan when the live ship quickens, when it becomes alive. And then we also have pirates. There are loads of pirates and lots about boats and sailing and pirates, and yeah, absolutely brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't wait to read more in this world. Then I finished another book that's I finished a mid-series book. So I have, again, this is a read-along that I have been joining in with Lianne, again, of Literary Diversions. A lot of the read-alongs that I've been taking part on are part of that. And that was the Veronica Speedwell series. So we start with, here we go. When did we start it? June, I think. June, July, August, that would make sense. So we start with A Curious Beginning is the first book in the series. These are a series by Deanna Raybourn. It's kind of a Victorian mystery series. So you follow Veronica, who is a lepidopterist, I can't say that, butterfly collector. So she is a well-travelled woman for her time. She travels around the world collecting butterflies and preserving them or selling them and stuff like that. And you also follow Stoker, who they kind of become partners, I guess. It's very much mystery. Each book is a different mystery, but the relationship between the two of them is brilliant. We are 3 books in. I have read 3 of the books. I can't remember how many. I think there's 9 in the series, something like that. I've read 3 of the books so far. Something eventually is going to happen between Veronica and Stoker, but it has not yet. It is very, very slow burn. The romance is not the main part of it at all. Each book is a mystery, but Veronica is brilliant. Just the banter between the 2 characters is fantastic. Veronica is a very modern woman for a Victorian woman, and she is, brilliant. I'm thoroughly enjoying the series. The 3rd book was called A Treacherous Curse, and I've given it 3.5 stars, which I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely hooked on the series, and I'm going to read more. I think it suffered for the fact that initially I started trying to read it alongside Ship of Magic, so I was kind of trying to read that one and Ship of Magic, but then I got hooked on Ship of Magic, so I put that down, and then I had quite a big gap, so I don't think I got into it as much as I normally would. I think it suffered for that, basically. But I still very much enjoyed it, and I love Veronica and Stoker, and I just want to read more. So yeah, that's that one. And then the final book that I read in August, again, was another audiobook because this beast took over my reading for the month. And that was Final Girls by Riley Sager. This one surprised me. I was expecting it to be like a 3-star thriller, like I enjoyed it, yeah, it was okay, whatever. But I ended up giving it 4 stars. We follow Quincy, who is a survivor of a murder, basically. When she was younger, when she was a teenager, her and all her friends went to a cottage for a night, and they were all brutally murdered, and she was the only one that survived. So she is a final girl, and the media had dubbed her and 2 other girls final girls, like you would expect from like a horror film, the last girl left standing kind of thing. This is kind of one of the other final girls dies, and Quincy is kind of trying to work out what's happened. She's trying to get her memories back of what happened to her. And yeah, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Like, I did not see the twists coming. Riley Sager this is my first ever book I've read by Riley Sager, but I will definitely be reading more. There were so many like red herrings. At one point I was convinced, I was like, oh, well, it's just that, isn't it? That's what's happened. There, I completely know what's happened. That wasn't what happened. So yeah, it threw me in a number of places. And by the time we got to the end, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I gave it 4 stars, and I will definitely be reading more by Riley Sager. So there we go. That is 8 books that I read in August. We had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 audiobooks, 1 physical book, and 2 Kindle books in August. But yeah, this took over a bit of my August reading. But shall we move on to my September TBR? So I have got 8 books on my September TBR, and I know I won't get to all of those 8 because I will also listen to some audiobooks as well. But what I tend to do is I tend to kind of set myself a TBR based on, so first off, I base it on a couple of read-alongs. and stuff that I am part of. Again, these are all part of Lianne of Literary Diversions. She has a Patreon which I am subscribed to, which is why I take part in so many of the things that she does. She is not the only booktuber that I watch. I watch a number of booktubers, but I will mention a few quickly. So Lianne, Literary Diversions. I also really like What Victoria Read as well. I really enjoy her videos. And then the newer one that I've come across is Hardy's Books. I met them at Worldcon. I vended with my yarn at Worldcon earlier in August, and there was a really big literary presence there. And I met the team behind Hardy's Books, and I've been watching their videos since, and I love them. So yeah, slightly different videos, but that's the three that I kind of watch the most of, as well as others that I'm sure I will mention at some point. But yes, so let's do the read along books first. So the first one is obviously the next book in The Life Ship Traders by Robin Hobb. So I have got a copy of The Mad Ship, which is the next book in that series. Although we are reading them over 2 months. So this is September, October potential. So if I don't get to this in September, I will be reading it in October. What I'm hoping to do is that I'm hoping to kind of get to this towards the end of September and have it cross over September and October so that it doesn't take over completely. It is another chunk. It is, oh no, I've just looked and it's even longer. It is 906 pages. It doesn't look longer, does it? It's a different edition. It doesn't look bigger, but it is bigger. I obviously picked this one up. I picked this one up secondhand from World of Books. Yeah, that is my next one in that series. But as I said, that is September, October. So I may potentially not finish it this month. Then I am carrying on with the Veronica Speedwell read-along and the series, so we are moving on to book 4 of that, which is A Dangerous Collaboration. That I do want to get to in September because we're reading 1 book a month for that. Then let's think of other read-alongs. So that's the 2 read-alongs that I'm taking part in for that. Yes. I also have a Patreon channel, which is predominantly crafting content, but we do host a book club. I do a bi-monthly book club. So every 2 months we pick a new book. Well, we do 2 books. I give a list of 6 books. We vote, we pick the 2 with the most votes, and then we can pick one of those to read over a 2-month span. So we've just done that, and the 2 books that came out on top were A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. I picked this copy up at Worldcon because the Gallant stall were having a half-price sale, so why not? And it'd been on my radar for a while. So A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. This is a fantasy romance. Very much as it says, I guess. We follow Muriel, who is a powerful witch, and she accidentally summons a demon, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, that is one of the book club picks for my book club this month. And then the other book club pick for this month is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kleiwer? Sorry, not 100% sure how to pronounce that. I do have a physical copy of this coming. It should be arriving today because I read something about it being interactive and I felt like I was going to want to have a physical copy to read this one. It is a horror. I have heard it's very, very creepy, so we will see. It is basically, I can't remember the names of the characters because I didn't look them up, but we follow 2 characters who move into a new house. And then one night, some people knock on the door and say, "We used to live here, can we come in?" And then one of the new owners of the house goes missing and things start to happen. So yeah, it sounds very much like a haunted house kind of horror. I have no idea, but I am excited for it. It's been on my radar for a while and I am looking forward to giving it a go. My book club is, again, 2 months, so it is September, October. So whether I get to this one or that one in September, I don't know. I'll probably try and do one of them in September, one of them in October. I may not get to both of them. I may only get to one of them. We will see how it goes. But that is that one. Right, the next 3 books. Oh, and I didn't bring them with me. Well, I brought the books, but it'll make sense in a second. The next 3 books I picked off my TBR shelves with some TBR cards. I will show them to you in a future video because I really enjoyed. I decided I was going to pick 3 books just randomly from my shelves, and I have a set of TBR cards which give you like little prompts to help you pick books. I picked them up from our little local bookshop, the Book House, which is amazing, and I used them. I picked 3 different prompts and I used them to pick 3 different books for September, which was really, really fun. I can't remember. I'd say the prompts I got were a book that had To Mum as the dedication, a book that had I've forgotten. There was another dedication one, I think. I'm just looking now. No, a book that had the blurb started with a name, and the other one was, I think it was another dedication one. Nope, I can't remember what the other one was. I can't remember. Anyway, I will share them and we'll talk about them more in future months. I should have thought that through and planned that a little bit better. But I can't remember what the third one was. Anyway, I ended up picking 3 books. So the first of those books was The Midnight House by Amanda Geard. I don't really know much about this. I picked this up at a charity shop. I just saw it and it sounded good. In fact, what actually happened is I went into one charity shop and I saw it there and thought, oh, that sounds good. That looks interesting. I put it back. I went into the charity shop next door and there was another copy. And I was like, oh, right, I've got to pick it up in that case, haven't I? I'll read you the blurb because I don't really know a lot about this one. A lost letter, a long kept secret. 1940, in Ireland, the beautiful Lady Charlotte Rathmore is pronounced dead after she disappears near the lake of Blackwater Hall. In London, on the brink of the Blitz, Nancy Rathmore is grieving Charlotte's death when a letter arrives containing a secret that she is sworn to keep, one that will change her life forever. 2019, journalist Ellie Fitzgerald flees a scandal in Dublin for the safety of rural Kerry. When she discovers an old letter tucked inside the pages of a book from Blackwater Hall, she is drawn in by the mystery of Lady Charlotte's disappearance and unravels a long-lost secret. It sounds great. I do love a bit of historical fiction. I love like multiple timeline things as well. So yeah, I'm curious to get to this one. This also fits a prompt for a readathon that I'm taking part in, again with Lianne of Literary Diversions, her Loch Fern readathon. And the prompt was, you had to pick a book that in some way, for me anyway, the way it worked this month, related to keys, stairs, or a trunk. And this one has a literal keyhole on the front. So I figured this fitted the prompt for that one really, really well. The next book I picked with my TBR cards was Temeraire by Naomi Novik. I picked this one up ages ago I picked it up in the summer. There was a brand new bookshop in my hometown. I grew up in Helston in Cornwall, and we went down and visited my parents during the summer, and there was a brand new bookshop there, and I wanted to go and support this bookshop. I picked this one up as well as a couple of other books which will appear at some point in the future, I'm sure. I have read Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I absolutely loved it, but I've not read any other books from her. But all I know is that this series features dragons, and like you can't go wrong with dragons. Basic premise, I think, is a ship's captain is transporting a dragon's egg, but then it hatches and the dragon imprints on him, and he is suddenly becoming a dragon trainer, basically. It sounds good. It sounds fun. It's not too chunky, which I'm quite looking forward to. So yeah, I'm excited to get into another series. So many series. And then the third book that my TBR cards picked for me is this one here, which is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Sorry if I've butchered that. The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I think I picked this one up secondhand from World of Books by the look of it. I'm not 100% sure. It may have been a charity shop one. I can't remember. It certainly doesn't look brand new. This is a thriller. A woman with amnesia. It literally says, Alicia Berenson lived a seemingly perfect life until one day 6 years ago when she shot her husband in the head 5 times. Since then, she hasn't spoken a single word. It's time to find out why. So yeah, that's that one. There's not much to say. I think it will be a fun thriller. We'll see what happens. And then, I'm just checking, the final book on my TBR, which is one I am currently reading because it is the 5th of September. So I have started reading these books. And this is a library book. This is The Last Girl to Die by Helen Fields. I loved, as I said, the D.I. Kalanick series. And I spotted this one in the library and I had to pick it up. Especially considering it's set on the Isle of Mull, which, as I mentioned earlier, we visited in April, I believe. We had a week on the Isle of Mull with my in-laws. And yeah, so I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I'm just under halfway through, if you can see there. It follows, I've forgotten her name, Sadie, who is a private investigator who has been brought in by a family whose daughter has gone missing on the island. They are an American family who've moved to Mull, who've not been particularly accepted by the locals, and their daughter has disappeared. And it's not really a spoiler. In the first chapter, literally, I think, the first line of the book, the first line of the book, finding Adriana Clarke's body was a shock. So yeah, the girl she's been brought in to find is found dead right at the beginning of the book. And then she kind of continues to investigate. The family keep her around to work so that she's kind of a liaison between them and the police. And she continues to investigate, but things are not what they seem. Like, the police don't really seem to be investigating. It's a small town. They're assuming it's a tourist that's done it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And she is embroiling herself in the investigation as much as she can to try and find out what has happened to Adriana and what is happening on the island. So I am thoroughly enjoying this. It's got all of the things that I kind of loved about the D.I. Kalanick series. It's not as police procedural. So the D.I. Kalanick series was very police procedural because obviously you're following actual police officers. This is really interesting in that you're following a private investigator who doesn't have the same kind of status that the police do. But we're also dealing with like small town policemen on a remote island. Yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. I would definitely be picking up more books by Helen Fields in the future. So that is the 8 books. That is the 8 books on my TBR for September. I am also listening to an audiobook at the moment. I'm listening to The Haunting of Blackwood House by Darcy Coates, which I picked up because one of the Fable book clubs that I follow along with is reading that at the moment, and I spotted it on Everand, which is where I get all my audiobooks. And I thought, why not? I'll listen to that. It is very much a haunted house. I'm really, really enjoying it. We follow, oh no, I've forgotten the main character's name. No, it's gone. Our main character is very much she does not believe in ghosts. She grew up in a house full of mediums, and she has just rejected the whole thing and does not believe in ghosts. So when she gets the opportunity to buy this amazing house that has a horrible history, she takes it because it's an amazing house, and why should the history of the house affect her? But oh yeah, this house is haunted. And yeah, it is getting creepy. I am starting to struggle to listen to it on my own at the studio, which is always a good sign of a creepy horror. But I am thoroughly enjoying that at the moment. So yeah, we will see how the month goes. I think that is it for me in that case. Have you read any of the books that I've talked about? Did you enjoy them? Do you have any recommendations based on the books that I have enjoyed? That is always appreciated. If you have stuck it out to the end, thank you very, very much. The videos will be a bit shorter going forward because I won't have the whole big introduction thing at the beginning. But I hope you've enjoyed it. My first kind of forte into BookTube, I guess. I have done some book videos in the past as part of vlogs and stuff. I do Vlogmas every year with the kind of crafting side of my channel, although that tends to be a real mix of stuff. And I've done book videos based during Vlogmas and things like that as well. But this is my first time kind of starting a proper sit-down BookTube kind of let's talk books kind of thing. So yeah. I will be back again at the beginning of October to update you on how I found the whole, or I'm not even going to try and pick up that stack of books. Maybe I will try. How I found the stack of books that we are going for this month. And to let you know what I'm going to be reading in October. So yeah, if you have made it this far through the video, leave me... I don't know. I never look at emojis in advance, so I never can think of what emoji to say. Leave me a book emoji. There better be a book emoji. Leave me a book emoji of some kind to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And yeah, let me know. If you have seen any of these books before, if you've read any of them, then let's talk about them in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.